Well, we're here today celebrating one of the most unique and fantastic partnerships between a development organisation and a private philanthropic fund, the Cathal Ryan Trust Fund. And what the Cathal Ryan Trust Fund have achieved in Sri Lanka is quite simply staggering. They have transformed the northern part of that country, which was ravaged by civil war for 25 years, and have now played a major part in the reconstruction of that entire country. And great credit goes to the Ryan family and to the Cathal Ryan Trust for having the courage and the determination to see this fantastic project through.
So our involvement started actually at the death of my father 5 years ago, and in his will he'd left a certain amount of money for children abroad. We didn't know in actual terms that that money was intended for Sri Lanka due to the fact that he spent a huge amount of time there in the early 80s as a pilot in Colombo and fell in love with the country. And we'd been trying to get into Sri Lanka during his lifetime for a number of years, but the civil war lasted for 26 years, and every time I suppose the ceasefire broke, it didn't last for long enough for us to go in and do something tangible. It wasn't until 2009, when the war actually ended, which was 2 years after his death, that we could go in and do something more significant. We chose Unicef as a partner because of a number of reasons. As a UN body, they had access into the north, which other NGOs didn't have. Also, we had a lot of personal protection there and access to government and data that we wouldn't have got from any other NGOs. Over the last 3 years then, since we started, we targeted 4 of the worst affected towns in North Sri Lanka, and we pretty much rebuilt them from the ground up. First trip that we arrived in Sri Lanka when we first started talking to UNICEF was only a few months after the war had ended. And a lot of people were still in quite a large camp at that time called Manic Farm. So I think it's a very different scene to what is now. Since then they've been released and they're back in their towns, which have been rebuilt. But at the time it was a lot of destruction. There was no sort of real solid buildings around the place. There was no civilian population around the place, and the whole country was still covered in landmines. So at that time it was quite harrowing to see the effects of, I suppose, of a nearly 3-decade-long war, and that was an impact that I don't think I'll ever really forget.